Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Breakfast Live with me, Odessa, from my apartment kitchen. Well, the sun finally came out, so that's really exciting for me. It's been quite gloomy the past few days, so I love to see that beautiful sunshine today. Welcome again. First of all, I'd like you to hit the share button. So you can share with all your friends and family this wonderful recipe and what you're watching this morning. So hit that share button and then we'll go ahead and get started. So this morning what we have are breakfast power bowls. And this is a really great option if you're looking for something to meal prep. A couple weeks ago, it may have been you needed to meal prep because everybody was running off in different directions, going to different events, all that good stuff. But now you might need a meal prep for different reasons. Maybe it's just that not everyone gets up at the same time, so you can't make one big breakfast for everybody. And you need some options where people can grab and go. So that's what we're doing this morning. We're going to do this amazing meal prep. The other great thing about this recipe is that it is super high in protein. And that is a good thing because that's what's gonna keep you full until lunchtime. So hopefully you're not reaching for, a snack mid-morning. And if you are, then you should try this recipe, which is really high in protein. It's gonna keep you full, it's gonna keep you satisfied until you get to lunchtime. So we'll go ahead and get started. First of all, I want everybody to make sure that when you're preparing food for yourself or for others, that you've got clean hands. So you want to wash your hands for at least 20 seconds in warm, soapy water. Next, you want to sanitize all of your surfaces, any utensils. Go ahead and make sure everything is nice and clean, especially when you're preparing food for others. So we'll go ahead and get started with our recipe and our ingredients. First, I want to talk about really the star of our show this morning, which is beef. So this is a roast, a beef roast. And the wonderful thing about beef is that, of course, it is high in protein, but it also has a lot of other amazing nutrients in it. It's got several of the B vitamin complex nutrients in it. It's got zinc, selenium, and iron, and many more, just to name a few. So this is really the star of our show this morning, and I want to talk about how I got it to this stage. So I actually slow cooked this beef yesterday. So if you're meal prepping, you would likely do it all in one day, but I wanted to have this ready for us to go this morning. So I slow cooked this beef yesterday for 6 hours on low. And the other items that I included in on that slow cook are beef broth, because you want to make sure you have liquid in there with your meat in the slow cooker. And I also included salsa verde. That's kind of our secret ingredient. It gives us a big punch of flavor without having to either add too many ingredients that you have to keep up with and without adding too much sodium. So make sure when you're searching for your salsa verde that you pay attention to the sodium closely, but it's gonna give us a really amazing flavor to our beef. And then what I did with this is that it was a 2-pound roast. So 1 pound, which is what our recipe calls for, is really hard to find. 2 pounds roast is much easier to find. So what I went ahead and did is after I was done slow cooking the whole roast, I went ahead and cut it in half, divided it in two. That'll give us our 1 pound for our recipe this morning. But what's really great about that is then you have a whole other section of meat that you can do amazing things with. You can make tacos, you can make sliders, you could just go ahead and double this recipe and put the extra ones in the freezer, and then really you've made 2 weeks worth of breakfasts instead of one. So there's really a lot of great things that you can do with that extra pound of meat. But don't be afraid to go ahead and buy 2 pounds, and then you've really done the work for multiple meals instead of just one. So this is 1 pound. So after I cut it in half, I went ahead and shredded it with the grain. So mostly you want to cut against the grain when we're talking about beef. And that's really just to keep everything really tender. But our beef was cooked for 6 hours, so it is tender. And I went ahead and shredded it. So we got these beautiful strips of beef to go in our breakfast bowls. The next main ingredient for our breakfast bowls are potatoes. So what you need to know about potatoes is when you bring them home from the grocery store, right before use, you want to wash them really well. They have been sitting in the dirt, and they get brushed off before they make it to the grocery store, but you really want to run them under cold running water. And for these guys, you might even want to use a vegetable brush. And that'll really gonna get in the cracks and make sure you've gotten as much of the dirt out as you possibly can. So once you've done that, what you wanna do is go ahead and start slicing and cutting your potato into equal size pieces. I wanted to cut this potato for you guys so you guys could see a little trick that I use to make cutting potatoes a little safer. So as we know, potatoes are they're hard, so they're gonna take a little bit of force to cut through, but they're also an uneven shape, so they're gonna wobble around, but we wanna minimize that as much as we can. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our knife, we're gonna have a nice firm grip. I grip the knife right here at the back of the blade. A lot of people hold their knife like this, but that actually doesn't allow you as much control over the knife, and so the knife can go in unexpected directions, as opposed to having a nice grip on the blade. So first what we're gonna do, hold the potato tight, and we're just gonna slice off just a little chunk. So not much at all wasted, but enough to make this potato really stable for us to cut. So you can see it's not wobbling around anymore. And those are the kind of safety things that are really important to keep your fingers safe in the kitchen. So then what we're gonna go ahead and do is just go ahead and slice your potato. And what you're looking for when you're slicing your potato is to create equal size pieces. So if we go ahead and take this out, what we're gonna do is, again, we're looking for equal size pieces, and the reason that that's so important is because you want all of your potato to cook evenly at the same time when it's in the oven. So if you've got little tiny pieces and really big chunks, then your little pieces are gonna burn and your big pieces are still gonna be raw. And we don't want that. So make sure you're cutting your potatoes into equal size pieces. And go ahead and slice up. This recipe calls for 2 potatoes. I don't want to slice up the whole potato for you in front of us right now. But then once you get all your potato and they're in nice evenly sliced pieces, you're going to go ahead and throw them on a baking sheet, toss them in just a little bit of olive oil, it doesn't take much, and add some pepper for flavor. You can go ahead and bake those at 400 degrees for about 30 minutes, and then they come out looking beautiful like this. You can see a nice golden brown, all the pieces are evenly cooked, so they're not hard anymore, but we've got some beautiful color on them. And one more thing to note is that we do want to actually leave the skin on your potatoes. So that's where most of the nutrients concentrate in potatoes. So your nutrients like vitamin C and potassium, those are really gonna be concentrated in the skin. So we do wanna leave as much on as possible. And once they're roasted, you really can't even tell. Okay, so next, our last main ingredient for our bowls are our eggs. What's breakfast without eggs, right? So the really great thing about eggs is it's gonna add even more protein to this already protein-rich recipe, but it's also gonna add some really kind of unique vitamins and nutrients. So things like biotin, riboflavin, and many other micronutrients that help your body function at its best. So the really fun thing about the eggs is that you can add all sorts of things to your eggs. You can sneak in some veggies in there. I recommend you can either wilt some spinach into your eggs, you can saute some onions and bell peppers first and then scramble them in with your eggs. You can even add things like mushrooms. To really kind of get the most out of your egg breakfast. You've already got the skillet out, you're already cooking, so you might as well add in some extra veggies and make sure you even get more nutrients than what's already included in this nutrient-rich breakfast. So then what you're gonna do is assemble. So we're gonna take little containers like this, refrigerator-safe containers, with lids, and what we're going to do is we're going to start layering our ingredients. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with potatoes on the bottom. Then I'm going to move on to our beef. I'm gonna layer that up there. And then we're gonna finish off with our eggs. Perfect. And then, so this is kind of your base recipe that you'll want to put a lid on and stick in the freezer. This recipe makes enough for 6 containers full, so 6 servings. So that means 6 breakfasts total. So either 3 days for you and another person. And again, you can double this recipe, triple this recipe to make it fit for what your family needs right now. And any extras you're gonna wanna put in the freezer. So these will last for about 3 to 4 days in the refrigerator. So extras you're gonna wanna put in the freezer, make sure your containers freezer safe, and then you can pull them out and thaw them and heat them up and grab them to go. So I hope that this was kind of a new fun recipe for you. I hope this is gonna help you with your meal planning and prepping, and I hope this makes your mornings a little bit easier. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Tomorrow we are going to go live and feature a dinner recipe at 6 o'clock tomorrow night. So be sure to join us again for another live with dinner tonight. Bye now.